Hello, this is Julius from Basic Financials. Today I'm going to do a video about claiming expenses, job expenses back. Now, this applies in some respects to all employees, but I'm sort of going to angle it mainly towards people in the armed forces, because there are some special rules that apply to people in the armed forces. Now, I'll start by saying travel to and from work. Normally, for normal employees, travel to and from your main workplace isn't tax deductible. So, if you're using your car and you travel from home to work, that's not an allowable expense against your employment. If you were to travel from your work to another place where you needed to do some work, or like to a client or customer, or if you need to go to a course or something like that, then you can normally claim expenses. Now, what you might normally do if you're an employee is claim the expenses, travel mileage from your employer, and they might reimburse you a certain amount. If they don't, then you can claim a tax allowance against your income and get some money back from the government. If the employer doesn't pay you the same amount that the government would pay you, then you can claim the difference back. So let's say, for example, so I'm not actually doing on armed forces at the moment, this is for normal employees. So if you're doing business travel, not from home to work, let's say your employer pays you, says, right, I'll pay you 25p a mile, and you do 100 miles, then you might claim £25 back. The HMRC say that they could pay you 45p without causing any tax problems. So you could pay £45. Now, the fact that your employer has only given you £25 means that you can claim a tax expense of an extra £20 against your income. Now, that doesn't mean you get £20 back from the government. That means you get tax relief on £20. So if you're a 40% taxpayer, you'd get 40% of £20. If you're a 20% taxpayer, you'd get 20% of £20 back. So it's tax relief on the expense, and it's the difference between what you get reimbursed and what HMRC would pay you, which is 45p a mile for the first 10,000 business miles and 25p a mile thereafter. Now, concentrating on armed forces, it's very different for armed forces for the travelling. There is normally a difference if you're using your own car. I think the armed forces will pay you 25p a mile. So there is a difference to start with. You got that 45p for the first 10,000 and 25p per mile thereafter. But the big difference with armed forces is that it's been agreed some time ago, but fairly recently restated, that if you're in the armed forces, you're effectively always on duty, and therefore your home is you're on duty at your home. So if you're travelling from home to work, or you're based to another place, then basically home to work is you are entitled to claim business travel for that, because you're always, wherever you are, you're always at work. And that's a bit different from normal employment. So somebody might say to you, oh no, you can't do that because it's home to work. That's right for them, but it's not right if you're in the armed forces, because you have special rules. So that's the main thing. Now, there are other things you can claim for if you're in the armed forces, and commonly you will have other expenses. You might have accommodation. A good thing to do would be to keep all your pay slips, because your pay slips will show everything that has been taken off your income. So it will show any accommodation, it will show any food that you've done through the payroll side anyway. Sometimes you have to buy things yourself, in which case keep the receipts or write it down. Keep the receipts and write it down, or get it on an Excel spreadsheet or something so that you've got a record of it. So accommodation, you might have to buy extra bits of equipment. You might have to replace something that you've lost or damaged. If you have to buy things for your work, then you can claim them as expenses against your income and get tax relief on them. Yeah, so the most common things there, as I say, accommodation, pieces of equipment. For example, you might have to buy, I think if you come out of Sandhurst, if you're an officer, you buy mess dress, or some of the dress, like a jacket, I think you have to buy, and then a sword sometimes you have to buy. You don't have to, but I think it's quite common that you do. Those sorts of things I would imagine that you should be able to claim tax deduction for, because you're buying them specifically for your job. Look at your pay slip, see what's coming out. And something else to bear in mind is there's a uniform allowance that you get paid within your pay. You might see it at the top of your pay slip. It will say how much uniform allowance you've had. That's designed for basically maintaining and cleaning your uniforms, because you might have to take it to the dry cleaners and keep things repaired and buy replacements. Now, that allowance, if you're going to claim things, a uniform allowance, if you just leave it, you don't actually have to claim the uniform allowance because it's already been given to you in your pay. But you can instead, if you've got expenses over and above that for uniform, then you should be able to claim for those as well. So, but only over and above the uniform allowance. So don't claim that twice. I think that's probably there's a whole bunch of information on the Ministry of Defence intranet on claiming back expenses specifically. I mean, their expenses. I'm not talking about claiming back expenses, tax relief against the from the Inland Revenue. It's more, or HMRC. It's more what you can claim from them. But it gives you an idea, and do have a look at those expenses you can claim back from your employer, because that's obviously the best thing. If you can get them to get the full money back from the employer, it's got to be better than claiming tax relief, because you're only getting tax relief on the expense if you claim from HMRC, not the full amount. I hope that helps. If you've got any questions or comments, and I do have a walkthrough video which explains how to do a tax claim, so you can have a look at that as well. If you've got any comments or questions, just leave them in the box below. But good luck with that. I think the main thing is that you're aware of it, and you can go back for 4 years if you haven't claimed expenses. So you can, it's not too late. So if you like and subscribe as usual, please, and I'll see you again for another video soon.